I feel so bad that I have dated this wonderful human. I've loved him. He's loved me back. And we built this dream life together just for me to get everything I've ever wanted and then say, actually, I don't want this. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to Bri Speaks podcast. I am your host, Bri Speaks, and today we are talking about why I just asked my best friend and the love of my life, my husband, for a divorce. I know that most people will call me crazy, and I wouldn't disagree with them. That's the thing, is I wouldn't disagree with them. So if you're new here, I created the 6 narcissistic social hierarchies of control. The 6 narcissistic social hierarchies of control are patriarchy, which is going to be a theme. Capitalism, which controls people through class. Corporatism, which controls people through status or title. Racism, which controls people through race. Abrahamic religions, which control people through morality or perceived morality. And ableism/ageism, which controls people through mental and physical capacity to work. And so patriarchy controls people through gender roles, and it tells people if you are born a male, you have to be a traditional male. That is the ideal. You need to be heterosexual. You need to be masculine presenting. You need to have money, and you need to control a woman or children, which is, having a wife and child. And that the peak for a woman is the traditional woman, a heterosexual woman, feminine presenting, be enslaved by a man, which means being married, and then has children with that man. Yeah. And so I got married. Let's back up. I do feel like he deserves the story to be told. Our story deserves to be told. It's a fabulous story, y'all. I met my husband, and he's still my husband now. I've asked him for a divorce. Nothing's gone through final. So, if you see this, it happened. If you don't see this, then it's in my drafts and we're still together. I changed my mind and I backed down. But I don't think I'm backing down, though. And here's why. My husband and I met in October 2018. Dating app called Coffee Meets Bagel, and we always say 2018 was before the dating apps went to crap. So I don't recommend it today, but in the past it did work. And we call that right guy, wrong time, or right gal, wrong time. We met and we hit it off, y'all. We really enjoyed each other's company, but we ended up not like going further into we are going to make this official phase. And I'm not super sure why not. I can remember my husband was the one who broke it off. He broke it off. He was the one who broke it off the first time because he said he wasn't ready he said he wasn't sure about me. He said he wasn't sure about me. He couldn't put his finger on why, but he wasn't sure if we were compatible. And it wasn't that he wasn't committed. He was like looking for a girlfriend. He was looking for a long-term relationship, and we did hit it off, but I don't know. I need to ask him, but there was something about me that he was just like, I'm not sure. And I did have a child. I do have a child. And so I assumed it was because I was a single mom and he didn't want to deal with a single mom, because I had that conversation with at least 2 other guys at that point in my life that I really liked. And I thought it was going somewhere, only for them to later tell me they don't want to date someone with a kid. They don't want to date someone with a kid seriously. And it's just like, you could have started with that. But he never had a problem with me having a kid. He was like, that's fine. He has tons of nieces and nephews that he's very active with. He loves children. He wanted children of his own. He wants children of his own. I will say I did surprise him with my child, because I didn't tell him on our first date, but I told him but before we went out on our second date, I did tell him that I had a kid. And he, long story short, was very surprised. He said I pulled a Drake on him because this was at the time where Drake, it had just came out that he had the kid that he has with the French woman. And so by Pusha T, Pusha T had came out and said that Drake has a kid. And so it was around that time. So he called me Drake. But I didn't deter him at all. He was just like, okay, well, you could have told me earlier, but that's like, it's fine. So, I'm not sure why we didn't make it the first time around, but the second time, and we started talking again in 2020, 2 years later, but the COVID hit, and then the long story short is I got back with my son's dad, and he is a narcissistic a-hole. He is, I'll say shout out to him for showing me what narcissism is, what it looks like, how it presents and manifests in a man, because it has led me to study narcissism the way that I have, which led me to creating these, 6 narcissistic social hierarchies of control and this whole channel and my YouTube. Like, hey, shout out to my baby daddy. Not a he sucks. But because in 2020 I was manipulated back into a relationship with my son's father, I stopped talking to my now husband. But of course, as with any narcissist, they never change. They don't change. He was the same person who I had dated 10 years before at this point, or I guess maybe 6 years before at this point. And after about 1.5 to going into 2 years, I was like, well, this is not going to work. And, he tried his best. He tried every tactic in the book to keep me. But at this point, I had already been through him once. And so it was like, you're not going to fool me once. Shame on you. Fool me twice. It's shame on me. And this was the second time I was fooled. And I was like, you fool me. You ain't going to fool me again. So I was like, no matter what he said, I was like, this is not going to work. And I needed that relationship, if I'm being honest, because although I broke up with him the first time because he was a narcissistic a-hole doing all the stuff that, cheating, lying, gaslighting, all the stuff that narcissists do in any relationship. I still didn't know that he was a narcissist at the time. And so I thought these were all just like small character flaws that he needed to grow, that he could change. And that, so this time around, our kid was born in 2013 era, circa 2013. And so by 2020, I thought, hey, we've all grown, we've all changed. This will be different. And so I gave him another chance, and only to find out, of course, like I said, narcissists don't grow, they don't change, they repackage themselves, which is what he did. And so that didn't work. And so 2022, I reach out to a certain someone, my now husband, and essentially not to say the rest is history, but it kind of was. Like after that, we were inseparable. Like he came over that first weekend that I texted him, and then he came over every weekend after. And then he asked me to be his girlfriend. Probably actually only a few months later after that initial text, because he was like he said he was falling in love with me, and he had always regretted not moving forward with me that first time, and this time around he wasn't going to let me go. I was essentially always the one that got away for him, and so he kind of moved a little bit fast the second time, but it didn't feel fast. That's the thing, is whenever you're with a narcissist, it feels fast and you want it to slow down, and you tell the narcissist that you want things to slow down, but they encourage you to keep moving forward anyway despite your discomfort. But with my now husband, it all felt so natural. It all felt like very mutual. Like you could tell, for women who are listening and wondering like, how do I know if it's a narcissist or not? And it's because a narcissist will go full steam ahead, and they won't care about themselves in the love bombing process. Like they will, give you all their money. They'll, give you all of their time. They'll smother you with love. Like they will do all this stuff to give you everything that you wanted, even if it comes at their expense. Even if it's like, I don't know. Like my husband has a lot of like pride is what I'm looking for. It's like what I'm like narcissists, I feel like they have ego. They don't have pride. And so whenever I was with my husband and we were like, we were doing the courtship in the beginning, things were going fast, and only in the way that like we both kept wanting to talk to one another. But like you could still feel, here's the thing, with a narcissist, you don't feel any trepidation from a narcissist. They are so sure that they want you. They know that you're what they want, and like they are full steam ahead from the moment that you give them access to your life. But with my husband, it was not full steam ahead. It was like it was slow. It wasn't fast because again, we started talking, I guess, in like the beginning of August. And then we were officially girlfriend and boyfriend by the end of September. So it was about 2 months of like dating for the second time before we made it official. But it wasn't like he was pushing me into it. It was I really liked him, and if anything, we were. I guess the thing, we were both very cautious about going into this relationship this next time, because we were both like regular people who were afraid of getting hurt. Narcissists are not afraid of getting hurt. They are not afraid of getting, they don't like, because hurt for them is different than hurt from regular humans. Like, because they're not truly investing their heart into a relationship, when they go full steam ahead to love bomb and try to pursue a target, a potential new supply, they like, if you tell a narcissist no, they just try to convince you because it doesn't hurt them that you said no. They just want what they want. And they just like, no means I got to try a different way. But when you tell another human who actually like likes you and puts their feelings into you and puts their heart into you, you tell them no, it's like they don't try to push you because like they're hurt. It's just like, oh no, like, okay, like I like they accept it and they're just, they might actually know like why not, or like, there's still some sort of guard. When it comes to a man who is not a narcissist, they still have some sort of guard over their own feelings, their own being. And that's not to say I'm excusing people who have like, what is the opposite of anxious attachment? Elusive attachment, or like distant attachment, or the people who don't like to be attached, so they're always running away from people. That is different. That is different. Because they play games. They play games. They're like, oh, this person's getting too close, so let me fall back. And like there's this weird inconsistency with them. Not to say that they're a narcissist, but like they have, trauma that they're still working through technically. But with my husband, it was not like that. It was if I gave him some, he gave me some. He gave me some, I gave him some. And it was always a very even back and forth to show each other that we're interested. Like we revealed a little bit more, and they would reveal, and then I would reveal. It was like just like the most beautiful tennis match of courtship, until we got closer and closer, until we both felt very comfortable being like, okay, yeah, no, we want to pursue this seriously. And so we dated for a year, and then we moved in together. And that was lovely. I was very excited to start this next phase of life with him. Everything was great. My son liked him. He brought balance to our lives. As someone who identifies as an ADHD woman, well, slash am diagnosed. Um, I'm messy, I'm a little disorganized, I'm a little impulsive, but he was kind of all of the opposite of that. His dad was in the military, so he was raised by a military dad, so he had great organization. When like he was impeccable with his word. Like if he said he was going to do something, he did it. If he said he was going to do something, he did it. And I am not like that. I'm like, if I say I'm going to do something, I might do it. I'll probably do it. I'll try to do it. I'll think about doing it. And I might get it done, but am I impeccable with my word? No. But so I always admired that about him. And it gave a lot of structure to my son. And he taught my son so much about like, male hygiene. And, just like what the expectations are as a male in this society. While of course mom was there saying, while these are the expectations of a male in this society, you don't have to adhere to them if you don't want to, unless they're like, like again, personal hygiene. Yes, you got to shower on a daily basis and brush your teeth and floss. But do you have to present this way or do this or whatever? You don't. But he gave my son a different option of what a male looks like outside of his father, because his father is not a great example. All this time that we're together, we are, like I said, we are best friends. We are yin and yang. We are peanut. I always called him the peanut butter to my jelly because he is. And so he just balanced me out in every way that I could ask. So what happened? Why? So Bri started this with you asking for a divorce. I don't hear where the divorce is coming. Well, before that, and just to round us off with the story, April of 2025, he asked, if I would marry him. Where I promptly and happily said yes, because I always wanted to be a wife. I thought I always wanted to be a wife. And So it's like, and like I was in a relationship, like everything in my life had always told me I wanted to be a wife. I had always been told I wanted to be a wife, and I love my son and I love children. I'm a very maternal woman in general. Like I love to nurture, I love to cook for people, I love to care for people, I love to heal. Those are characteristics that I'm a Cancer. Like, if you know anything about astrology, like, the Cancer is we are the mother sign, we are water, we are motion, we are nurture, we are nurture. It is who I am through and through, and I always identified that characteristic with being a mom and wanting to be a mom, and even once I was a mom, I wanted more children because I love children. Children are fantastic, and I love helping children grow and helping them and see them achieve and see them grow into themselves and their own personality. Like, I enjoy that process. And so, of course, I wanted more children. I just wanted them not with a narcissistic a hole. And my husband, being a very paternal man, like a man who always takes care of his family. It's one of the things I was really attracted to was how when his family needed him, he would always show up for them. And mind you, again, he's the only boy out of one, two, three, four. He got three sisters and a mom. He was the only boy out of that dynamic, and so he was always showing up for his siblings, his sisters, and then most of his sisters have children, and so he would always show up for those nieces and nephews. And so he wanted children too. And so so he asked me to marry him. I said yes. We got married shortly thereafter. We planned on doing a big old, wedding. We cared more about the paperwork. So we went and did our justice of the peace wedding. And planned to save for the big wedding, further down the line. So we got married May of 2025. I got a new job 2025. This is when I was making my largest six-figure paycheck ever. It was a big director position at a healthcare company. I got my husband, got my new job. I think I had got a new car around that time as well. Life was high. Life was high. Um, and so I would say the first thing that happened was I lost my job. I lost my big corporate director position in October, only 5 months after having the job. Long story short, is it turned out the job was a sales job, and I was told it was something else. And so it wasn't a match. I'm not a salesperson. I'm not a salesperson. I can sell things. In my old positions, I had sold things. I had a commercial job. My job was getting money for the company, but it was not through selling new products. I would work with clients we already had to, ensure they keep loving the products that they were purchasing. And then if they wanted to buy something more, I was there to help. I was there to help. But it wasn't as so much as like pushing people to buy new things. I'm not a pushy person. It's like, if you don't want it, that's fine. If you don't want it, I'm okay with that. I'm not a pushy person. And so the job I was not aligned. And so they asked, do you want to leave or do you want us to fire you? And I was just like, hey, I'll walk away. I'll walk away. I'll walk away. No need to pull out the cavalry. Um, and so that is how I essentially became a stay-at-home mom, starting in October of 2025. And although I wanted my corporate America job, I was making the most money I had ever made. It was very high intensity. It was a lot of expectations. It was, 9 to 5. It was a lot of time. And I didn't love it. And then it was a lot of white people. It was all white people. It was all white people. Well, there were no black, like, there was some diversity. It was very small. You guys, if you're familiar with corporate America, there are your token people of color around, but 90% of the space is very Caucasian. And that comes with a lot of political play. You have to do a lot of politicking in the office in order to move up, to get ahead, to not be bothered as a black person. And I had dealt with that and I didn't want to deal with it again. So I was trying to look for things that were outside of corporate America, but then I started doing TikTok and my TikTok started, taking off, and started doing YouTube and that started doing well. And my husband could afford so then that happened in October of 2025. And then in November of 2025, my husband was driving my car and he was in a car accident. He is fine for the most part, but the car was total. And so now I don't have a job and now I don't have a car. And 6 months earlier, I was living the high life essentially, but it was okay. I was glad the car was gone because I couldn't afford it anymore at this point anyway, because I didn't have a job. And so so now like my husband's taking care of all of the bills. I don't have a job. I'm doing content creation. I'm writing a book. I was writing my book. And so I was like living what I thought was like my ultimate dream, because the whole point of us getting jobs and going to corporate America and trying to make money in capitalism is so that we have money to be free. We have we have money so we don't have to work for other people, so we can do what we want with our time. We want to be free we want money so that we can do what we want. We can be free. And so I was I was free in the sense that I didn't have a job. I didn't have a boss telling me what to do every single day, but every day I still had to wake up and get stuff done because the expectation was there, because I'm a wife. And so, and my husband was working to pay the bills. And so the unspoken expectation is that you don't have a job, so you are now the caretaker for the home. And mind you guys, again, I have ADHD, and so I don't have insurance, so I actually don't have meds at this point in my life. And so my productivity levels, like, they were kind of riding high at first, like, yeah, woo, no job. But then, after a while, it's like, which I don't mind making my own schedule. As I'm sitting here, recording this podcast right now, I have the ability to execute on like my visions, but I don't. But it's still at my own pace. It is still at my own pace, and that is what I enjoy. Versus in a corporate setting, you have to do it at someone else's pace. When they want their targets met at this time, those targets need to be met at this time. And no matter if that makes you uncomfortable, if that makes you stressed out, if that makes you burned out, it doesn't matter. Those are your goals, and you are expected to reach them. And so that sort of happened in my house by accident. My husband, since he's the only one working, and I was doing most of the cooking even before I lost my job, just because I've done some culinary art school. I enjoy cooking. And my husband, he's just, not the best cook in the whole wide world. And so it just slowly became, once he came home from work, it was expected that dinner would be ready, or even not that will be ready, that I will be cooking, or that it's just like cooking became my job 100% of the time. And it's like, again, I was already doing like 75% of the cooking. But I had money to eat out if I didn't feel like cooking. But now I'm in this position where I don't have a job. So the days that I don't feel like cooking, I still have to cook, because where am I going to get money to pay for food? And my husband, sure, he can pay for food to eat out sometimes, but our budget is still a little on the thinner side because I don't have a job and he's taking care of everything. And so I'm like, I gotta cook every day or every other day. If there's leftovers, I'm a lucky lady. And it has to be, I have to do it at a certain time every day. And that is like, my eyeballs started to they started to squint. And then as I'm working on creating a platform, building my TikTok, I'm on TikTok more. And again, my husband didn't tell me that I have to cook every day. It was just like I was home. So, and I will say, a lot of these expectations I was putting on myself. I knew that I was home. I knew that although I am working, like right now, this is me working. I'm at a computer. I wrote a script. Actually, I didn't really write a script for this one. I'm kind of going off the top, and you can probably tell. But I usually will have a script, or at least, an outline of my episode, or outline of the certain TikToks. I've got work that has put into social media. Social media is a job. It is not, it is not, what everyone I feel like thinks it is when you go into social media. It's like, oh, you can just talk on your phone all day and get paid. It's like, sometimes you can, but no, you need structure. You need scheduling. You need, it is a job. Social media is a job. And so I will be working all day on my social media job. And although it's not, bringing in much income right now, I have faith. And then I will still be expected to cook whenever he came home. And I couldn't outsource it because I don't have the money to do that. And so so I was doing more TikTok, and so I was on my phone more. I was going viral pretty, enough where I was ensuring that I was getting a lot of comments, and I was responding to those comments. And my husband had made a couple of comments of like, "You're on your phone a lot," or, he wanted me to be more present when we were together. And again, those things are not bad in and of themselves, but the way that I would view TikTok is like I'm working. And I feel like the way that he was viewing TikTok was I was on my phone doing nothing or doing something invaluable or like wasting time or doom scrolling. And even when I told him that this is me responding to comments, this is me ensuring my engagement is high, this is me, trying to build a foundation. Um, I don't know if he didn't like believe me or if he's, I feel like he believed me, but I know that, which we talked about, like putting more structure around my content creation time because he didn't want. Essentially, like when he comes home, he wants to spend time with me. And that's not a bad thing. And it's like, why can't you do it earlier? And it's like sometimes I do it earlier, but a lot of times, because on TikTok, you have to post 3 times a day in order for your account to actually be an account that they push out. I would post, a long story short, it's like I would post right before he got home. And so when he got home, I was getting a lot of comments. And so I would be responding to them pretty often because everyone else is also getting home. And so they're seeing my video and they're responding. So even when I put structured around time, it's just, but that's another thing. It's like, I didn't like it. I didn't love it. I didn't love having to structure my time in order to have quality time or like in order to fit someone else's life or lifestyle. So, here we go. And so now I'm a stay at home wife, which is what I thought I wanted. I have this time in the day to do what I want, and I'm doing what I want, but it still has constraints around it, especially after a certain time. I have to cook dinner every day or every other day. And then like during dinner, we would typically, watch TV while we ate dinner. Sometimes we would just talk, nothing like, and like that's not a problem. But I often again, I only been married and living with someone I had lived with my son's dad before. I had lived a married life before. I wasn't married, but I lived a married life as the housekeeper, the mom, the maid. But I thought that I was so miserable in those relationships because it was such a high control environment because I was in a relationship with a narcissist because I was enslaved and I wasn't treated well. And so I assumed that the my disdain for being controlled came from being with someone who was so controlling and didn't contribute anything. They just took, suck, but then never gave or poured into me. And so I assumed I was looking for that, a partner, someone could who would give as much as they would take. And my husband is that. Like he's a clean person. He does the cleaning while I did the cooking. He's just so attentive to my needs, so empathetic, just like a kind, sweet person. And he is still a man raised under the patriarchy. That's one. And then he is still a partner who expects things from you. That is two. So I would say the two biggest things that caused me to end up asking for a divorce from my best friend and the love of my life were those. So starting with the patriarchy, um, if you follow me on TikTok, you've probably heard me mention a couple of my most viral videos have come from me talking to my husband about patriarchy and racism and explaining how they're the same as I do on my channel all the time. And there were, you know, just a lot of instances of him not seeing it. He believes that, not all men suck, which not all men suck. He's one of the men, he don't suck. But that is not as bad as women claim it to be. He feels like, um, you know, that most men are good and that you have to find the right one. Essentially like that. It's just like most men are good and the men that you find that are not good are just you found the wrong man. Like, I listen to a lot of what is her name? Sovereign Queen, I think, on TikTok. And an ex stripper. She just, she talks about the dark side of men a lot. And I showed him some of her videos, and the long story short is he feels like her point of view is skewed because she only gets men who come like into the strip club. And so those men are going to be the ones cheating on their wives, or those are going to be the ones who, see women as objects and all these things. But I'm like, while that can't, because he doesn't go to the strip club that I know of. Hey, nah, he doesn't. Uh, but while the men who actually do go into strip clubs are a very specific sample of men, they are still a sample of men. And so it's like they are still representative of a large portion of men, like, or of a significant portion of men. Like, it's not uncommon for a man to go to the strip club at least once in his life. So these women who are in the strip clubs every day, they they get to interact with all kinds of men. They get to interact with men who are there every day or every night or every weekend, all the way to they get to interact with a man who's only there because his bros forced him to go at his bachelor party. And so they will meet all of these men, and they are able to make assessments based on all of those interactions. And then, mind you, these women are not only meeting men in strip clubs. These women are still women who go outside on a regular basis with regular clothes on, and so they still interact with your everyday man. So not only do they have the knowledge of what every other woman would have knowledge of, they have that, and they have this knowledge of working with men in the most clear and transparent way that a woman can work with a man. And it's just like, the pretense is gone. There's no romance. There's no getting to like you, getting to know you. There's none of that. It's just like, I'm here for what I'm here for. You're here to be the service that I'm purchasing. And so we don't have to play this game. And so I argue that sex workers, or women in the sex industry have the best understanding of men, because of their experience. And like, again, I know people will say like, oh, that they have a skewed vision, but I'm telling you, they have a a nuanced, and I feel like they have the insider scoop. I feel like they have the insider scoop. Like they have they get to see the things that men will never show to the everyday woman that they don't have pretense with. So, anyways, I showed him her, and he disagreed with all the things that she said. And so and so because he is a man, and even though he was empathetic, even though he was sweet, even though he was kind, even though he was loving, even though he was nurturing, even though he was giving, he's still a man, like a traditional heterosexual man raised in the patriarchy. And so his emotional attunement to himself was lacking. Like, it was just so interesting that he was incredibly attuned to my emotional state. Like, I could feel like I'm hiding my emotions, and I will say I'm a hard on your sleeve kind of gal, but I have gotten better. I have gotten better over, especially working in corporate America, of like not showing everything I feel on my face, but not with my husband. My husband knew exactly how I was feeling when I was feeling it. And if he knew when I was like, he would address it. Like, he was great at reading my emotions, but when it came to his own emotions, y'all. And if he sees, I hope I not say I hope he doesn't see this video, but if he ever sees this video, I know he'll say that he is very in touch with his emotions. And he'll disagree with me until he's blue in the face. And this is I it's a part of the problem. And again, it is the blindness that comes with being the ideal in a narcissistic system. When you are the ideal, you will I will say almost, you will never see the problems of the system when you are the ideal of the system. Like, not to say Never, because you can awaken from the system and see it for what it is. But when you are the ideal, you will be the last to see it. You will be the last to see it every single time. If you are a man, you are going to be the last to see that the patriarchy is a problem. If you're a white person, you're going to be the last to see that racism is a problem. If you are if you're a pastor or a priest or a devout Christian, you are going to be the last person to see that Christianity is a problem. If you are an able-bodied neurotypical person, you're going to be the last person to see, like, you'll be the last to see ableism. You'll be the last to see ableism. You're not going to see ableism because you are the beneficiary of no one seeing the structure that uplifts people who are neurotypical and able-bodied. You won't notice it because it's not impacting you. And so patriarchy teaches men not to be in touch with their emotions. It teaches men that feeling is girly or it's feminine or it's woman-like, and if you do it, you are gay, and if you are gay, you are the worst thing on the planet Earth. Different episode, but I'm gonna talk about patriarchy. Where there is patriarchy, the more patriarchy there is, the more homophobia there is, and it is a interesting concept that the society tells you that men are the greatest. You should revere men. You should, yield to men's authority. And you should love men, and men. You should only respect the opinions of men. But don't fall in love with a man. But don't fall in love. Like, it pushes you all the way to the edge of homosexuality, and then as soon as you touch homosexuality, the guillotine comes down. And I'm just like, what an interesting concept. So, anyways, that's another story for another day. But patriarchy tells men they should not be in touch with their emotions. And as a man who was raised in patriarchy, my husband often, and it tells you that the only emotion you can it tells you that the manly emotion is anger. So you can have the emotion of anger, but anger is not really an emotion. That's what the patriarchy tells you. It's just like, it's a manly trait to have. It's sure. And so I witnessed and I saw anger a lot in my husband. And not not in an abusive way, not in a I was afraid for my life kind of way, but in a, if as someone who enjoys being, as he is someone who enjoys being organized and cleaned, if he had a bad day at work and then he would come home and things weren't organized and cleaned, his anger would come out. And again, not in a scary way, but in a, like, just not his usual kind, sweet, empathetic self. You don't know. But if you've ever lived with someone where they were a wonderful person, and I'm, again, as someone who studies narcissism, I know the difference between like narcissistic rage, and which is still technically, it's really still technically a microcosm of narcissistic rage, but it's a microcosm of it. It's not the full thing. But when a man doesn't get what he wants, and that rage comes because they feel like they should have what they want. I'm discovering something in real time here. But yeah, there were little bits of anger that I couldn't break through because he didn't see them as anger. He didn't, when I would say, like, you seem a little upset right now. No, I'm not. I'm not upset. I'm not mad. I'm not angry. And it's just like, you're talking to me right now in a way you've never talked to me. You never typically talk to me. Might even raise your voice he didn't, like, it was really, he had one time to raise his voice at me, and that was it. um, yeah, never again. But yeah, so that one time that he did that, again, he didn't see himself as angry. And it was like, how do you not see that as anger? And then so there's a danger in someone not seeing that they themselves are angry and upset. Because then the angry actions that come after that, they don't attribute that to their anger. And so it's like, yeah. So anyway, so one was, my husband is a man raised under the patriarchy. And so he had some patriarchal beliefs that he wouldn't let go of, or that he didn't know that he had, because again, he can't see it because he's in it and benefiting from it and all that stuff. And then two was that sense of freedom that I was looking for, that I wanted, that I still want, that I thought I would always have when I had a partner who actually took care of me, who actually cared about me, who actually treated me well. I had, again, y'all, I can't emphasize enough how, if I wanted something, my husband made sure I had it. Like, I had never before I fell in love, and married him, I had never been out the country. And he made sure that we had took a trip to Jamaica as our first like couples trip. It was beautiful. It was wonderful. I had a great time. But so the things that he wanted out of me were the typical things that are expected of a partner. I wouldn't even say a wife. Just like to spend time with me after work. He, like I said, I was saying earlier, he likes to watch TV after work, while we eat our dinner. But before I got in a relationship and before I was, married, I never watched TV. Since I was a child, I never liked watching TV. It's just like, it's always felt like propaganda to me. Even as a child, I didn't have the word. As a kid, as a kid, I didn't have the word for it, but I never liked watching TV. I felt like it was boring, for one, because the storylines were always so freaking basic. And then two, like the stuff that they showed in TVs and TV shows, it was always like, it just never like it never sat well with me. It was never better than me and my books. Me and my books, we went together real, real bad. And like, it started off with like, I was a poor Black kid who had no cable. And so we had the little satellite dish, and we can only get, Saturday morning cartoons on, the PBS channel. But it turned into, even once we had cable and I had access to channels, like I would watch Disney every once in a while, but I would still prefer books, because just like the rich experience that you get from reading a book from a character's point of view, you can never get that from watching the story that is being played out on TV. So I never watched TV. I've always hated watching TV, in fact, and I still to this day don't like watching TV. I'll listen to podcasts. I'll watch YouTube videos because if it's like educational content, but I've never watched TV for entertainment. Like, TV is not good entertainment to me. But my husband loves TV. Loves TV, loves watching all kinds, like the animes, like the show. Like, it's just like he can come home and watch TV all day. And makes him happy. And as we came together, and he's an introvert and I'm an extrovert, which again was fine, because yeah, sure, as a younger person, I was, partying a lot and I had a lot of friends. So I had my friends over often. So going into married life, I knew all those things would like slow down, but I didn't know how that would impact me. I didn't know how it would impact me. Yeah. And so now I'm at this point, if you've been keeping up with the story, where I have no job, I have no car, I'm a stay-at-home mom. I'm cooking, I'm doing content creation, but I can't do it, all the time. I have to do it in a certain way. And then during my like the time after work, I'm like, I have to spend it watching TV. And then after dinner, I don't know. There was just like and then after dinner there was just something else. There was always something when you have someone in your life that is your person, your partner, your spouse. There is always the expectation that you are doing something with them, for them, or accommodating them in some way. Like, I like to listen to music as loud as I possibly can, like on a speaker. Like, I got a professional grade JBL speaker, because I love music and I love loud music and I love loud quality music. Like, if you get put several, like, line up some speakers in front of me, I will tell you, and like blindfold me, and then you just play them. I'll be able to tell you which one is the crappiest speaker, and I will be able to tell you which one is the best speaker, just off of the sound alone. A lot of people can't distinguish what good quality audio is versus good like crap audio, but I can. And so, because I like listening to quality music very loudly. But when you live with someone, you can't do that. You can't just put on music as loud as you want to and just dance around your house nude, which is something I do enjoy doing, but I just can't do that with a husband, a person. Like, you can, but you will always be being perceived. You will always, like, even if they don't judge, even if they don't, mind, even if like it doesn't bother them, the fact that I am playing this super loud music and dancing in a way that I'm insecure about. I'm not confident in my dance skills. I think I have 16 left feet. And when I dance, it's possibly, probably. So, well, here's the thing. When I'm dancing by myself, I feel like I'm really good. But the moment I get in front of people, I feel like I get very self-conscious, and that's when I begin dancing off beat because I'm thinking about what I'm doing versus just doing it. I'm thinking about how does this look in front of people instead of just doing it. And so the self-consciousness of being watched while dancing and the lack of confidence that I don't dance well in front of people, and so people have always told me I dance poorly. And so although I love dancing, I'll only do it to myself and for myself and with myself because I don't like other people watching me dance because it's an insecurity I have. And so I want to be able to dance to loud music with no one watching in my house. I want to be able to be on my phone at all times of the day whenever I feel like it without someone monitoring me saying your screen time is up. I want to not eat food for 2 or 3 days straight and not have someone say, "Hey babe, are you okay? You should eat something." Which is just fasting. Mind you guys, fasting is it's an ancient practice. People fast all the time. It's really actually really good for your health. Again, I have an exercise and nutrition background. Like my degree is in health, is in human health. And so I know what I'm talking about. But as your partner, someone, and one, he doesn't have a degree in exercise and nutrition science. So he doesn't know what I know when it comes to the human body. So when I'm doing stuff like I haven't eaten all day and I don't want to eat, to someone who loves you, they're like, "Are you okay?" But to someone who is a free thinker, I'm like, "I know I'm okay. I'm doing what I want." Now, I'm like, just let me do it. And then the, I would say and I don't want to call it a final straw, but the thing that, so these are all things that are like, just, I feel this pressure mounting on me of all of these expectations of what it is to be a woman, what it is to be a wife, what it is to be a partner, what it is to be a lover, what it is to be a best friend who lives with their best friend, in a romantic capacity. And then so the last straw, if you will, was when my husband, again, we don't have a car, and so he bought a scooter, like an electric scooter to get around. We live in a suburban area, so things aren't very far. You don't really need a car where we live. Plenty of metro to get you around, plenty of public transportation. But, occasionally there is a place you got to go that is a little bit further than you want to walk, but you don't want to wait for the bus. And so you got a scooter. So it's this electric scooter, and he got it. He didn't like it, so he got another one, and he was going to return the first one. And a conversation came up about me returning the first one again, since I don't have a job and I can do things during the middle of the day. Um, but he said he didn't want me to ride it because it was dangerous, and like I was like, "What? Like, what? What? You didn't want me to ride the electric scooter because it was dangerous, but you ride the electric scooter." And he's like, "Yeah, because I bought it to ride." And I was like, "Okay, so you can ride this dangerous scooter, but I can't." His argument was that since he rides it now and will be riding it regularly, it's fine. But since I don't ride it regularly, I shouldn't ride it at all because I could get hurt. I could, not know what I'm doing and fall off and get hurt. And so I'm like, "Do you know, like, I've ridden electric scooters before?" And he's like, "Oh, but how long ago was that?" And I'm just like, like, maybe a couple of years, sure, but it's like, it's an electric scooter. It's not. And then he did bring up, like, "Oh, so if I just said I wanted to get a motorcycle, like, wouldn't you be upset because it's not safe?" And I was just like, "Well, yes, I would, because motorcycles are very, very not safe, but you're comparing a motorcycle to an electric scooter." Like, and he's like, "What's the difference?" And I'm like, "One, you need a license, you need classes, you need hours of practice before you are authorized to use it on the road. The other, you need to sign into an app. The other, you need to get on and adjust to the controls for a couple of seconds and then go." And mind you, I was just out cycling with my son, and I was like, mind you, I have like a road bike, like a speed bike, like not one of the, like, not like a regular bike. I used to be a cyclist. I used to cycle all the time, everywhere, all throughout DC when I was in college. And that was another part that was brought up, was like, okay, yeah, although the handles are, it might be easy to ride the scooter, but like riding it around with cars is a different experience. And I was just like, for 4 years, I rode my bike in and out of traffic through Washington, D.C. with no helmet, mind you. I should have had a helmet, but it's like, I'm very comfortable riding in and out and around traffic on two wheels. It's not like, that's not a new thing. But he could not conceptualize that I felt safe. He's just like, "Oh, well, like, it's a risk that you don't have to take. You can just walk, or you can just, you know, just not take the scooter. You can get there in any other way that other than the scooter. And I was like, I understand that there are other options, but the whole reason why we were even talking about the scooter is because it would get me there faster. It would be more convenient. The reason why you bought the scooter was to not have to do things in a long and manual way. You could just, hop on the scooter and go. And so that is what the use case in this case was, oh yeah, I can get there slower on foot or on the bus, but I wanted to use a quicker, easier method. And so he was saying the risk that you take on from using the electric scooter is not as it's not worth the benefits of getting there faster. And I was like, and that's your opinion. And I was like, that is your opinion. I feel like the risk of using this scooter, which I feel is a very, very, very small risk of injury. And I'm just like, even the worst case scenario is what? I fall off, I scrape an ankle, I scrape a knee. It's like, what is the problem? And he's like, the risk isn't worth it. And I'm just like, the risk is basically zero. So the risk is worth it. Oh, I was saying I was cycling the other day with no hands all the way down the street, going at probably, if I could guess, at least 15 miles per hour, probably 20, maybe even faster. Again, I have a speed bike. I have a road bike, the bikes that people use in the cycling competitions. I ride. I'm an athlete. I'm on a semi-professional softball team. I pitch balls between 40 to 60 miles per hour. I hit balls about 60 miles per hour. I catch balls that are going that fast. My reflexes are excellent. It's not I'm not I am quite the homebody couch person at the moment, but I am an athlete in in my heart of hearts, I am an athlete. And so to have my husband sitting here and telling me that he does not feel safe with me riding an electric scooter, something inside of me broke. Something inside of me broke. Something inside of me broke. Because I'm like, he did not mean he meant well. He meant well. He, in all of his heart of hearts, genuinely feared for my safety and did not want me to get on this scooter because of it. But that genuine fear, it came from one, a place of assuming that I am incapable or incompetent of riding this scooter in a way that you deem dangerous safely, but you can because you have practice and I don't have practice, so you feel like I can't, even though I do have practice. It just was a little while ago, which I told him, I was like, yeah, sure, it might take me there's a learning curve. Sure, I've been on different electric scooters and I know that a bike is not an electric scooter, but I have all the concepts and I just need to get on the scooter to refresh myself. But that so, but he believed that I could do it, but he believed that the possibility of me getting hurt was so high that it just wasn't worth it. And if you believe the possibility of me getting hurt is so high, that means that it inherently means you think I am incapable. You think I have some sort of less competence of being able to acquire and do this skill that you do on a regular basis, because I will get hurt. And it's the fact that I even had to sit there and argue a case for why I should be able to ride an electric scooter was when it dawned on me that no matter what, no matter whom I'm with, I'm always going to have someone looking over my shoulder. I'm always going to have, if you have a partner, if you have a person who you are tied to in this romantic way, your options in life will always be stifled. They will always be limited. They will always be watched. They will always be judged. They will always be perceived. They will always be given an opinion for. And I realized that I want nothing more in life than to live my life with no one's opinions about it other than my own. I want to wake up when I want to without someone judging me for getting up late and calling me lazy. I want to not eat without someone thinking that I'm starving myself for some sort of weird reason. I want to do dangerous and reckless things without having someone at home that I have to worry about. Oh my God, what if you pass away? If I want to put my life on the line, I want to be able to do that. If I want to save reckless things on the internet, I want to be able to do that without someone looking me up later and saying, oh, she's married to this person, and so let me harass this person. I want to be able to just move at my own pace. I wanna move at my own pace. I want to do what I want. I wanna be who I wanna be. I want to shine as bright as I wanna shine without the opinion of another. I want to be able to have dreams and not have or goals and not have someone question those goals unless I ask them for their opinion. But when you're married, if you have a goal, you have to run it by your partner. You cannot say, partner, one day I'm waking up and I'm going to law school. You have to run that by them first. And again, this is not about asking them for permission, but it is your responsibility as a partner to inform your partner of your life, of the things you are doing. That's the whole point. That is the whole point of having a long-term partner, is to share your life together. And I'm like, I realize I don't wanna share my life. I don't wanna share it with a husband, and then that made me realize I don't wanna have another kid. I don't want to have another kid. And I just, 'cause I'm sitting here and I'm like, I know my husband is so helpful. He is like the most executive functioning person that I know. Again, as someone with ADHD, my executive functioning is crap. Like, I'll have a bajillion and a bajillion excellent, amazing, fantastic ideas, and I can and never get any of them done. But that man, if he has an idea and he wants to do it, he's getting it done. I just love that. And so when I think about having a kid and having a kid with him, I know that if I'm tired, he'll get up and he'll do the milk. I know that if I don't want to do stuff with the kid, he'll do I know that he would pick up the slack wherever I faltered or wherever I felt like I couldn't. But the default for that baby was gonna be me. The default, like, for when that baby needed to get fed, was going to be my body, my bosoms. I would be that child's primary parent. There's no way around it. Like, when you are a mother and you give birth to a child, your responsibility is to care for that child, especially with your body. I mean, sure, I could do formula, but in this economy, no, I would try my very best to breastfeed, which would make me the primary parent for that child. And whenever that child needed anything, I was going to be the first person that child came to, especially if I continued to be a stay at home mom. That would have been my job. My job would have been caring for a kid. My kid just turned 12, about to be 13. I am I I didn't mind starting over again, thinking that as long as I had someone who I know would help, it will be fine. But as I started to feel this pressure of having to do things at a certain time, having to have dinner cooked at a certain time, having to get off my phone at a certain time, having to watch TV. Y'all, I don't like watching TV. But it's like, but the thing is, like, I would watch TV with my husband because I love my husband. I love him, and I would watch TV with him. I would do anything with that man. I would do it because he's fun. He's fun. He's smart. He's kind. He's loving. He's funny. I'm just like, I'll watch TV, and that's the thing. I will watch TV with him every day for the rest of my life if that's what he wanted to do, because that's who I am. Is I am a loving, giving person, and I will give up my own comfort for the comfort of others. And I don't love that about myself, and I've been working on that, and I've worked on it so much, actually, to the point where I have just asked my husband for a divorce. Because I realized every day as he came home and I had to go cook. I used to love cooking, and it's just like it's a chore now, but I would do it for his pleasure, not for my own. I would watch TV, even though I did have joy watching TV with him and the shows were interesting. But if he weren't there, would I be doing that? I wouldn't be. I wouldn't be doing that. And so at the end of the day, I was watching TV for his pleasure, not my own. Or, if I'm on this internet and I say something, I would be I am as of this moment less controversial, because I don't want anything to negatively fall back on my husband and then that fall on his job, which is my way that I am currently living. I If you have a partner, you are beholden to that person. Like, my best friend lives in Ghana, and I've been wanting to go to Africa for basically my whole life, and she's there till April, and she has a place that I can go and I can stay. And I almost said no to going because I have a husband. And I was like, if I can't bring my husband and my kid, then I can't go. And I'm like, this is my best friend in the whole world that I've been best friends with for when we 2008, so almost 10 years now. Like I knew her before I knew my husband, and is my best friend, and I cannot go see her because I felt like as a wife I wasn't supposed to travel abroad for fun without my husband and my kid. And it was because he hasn't been to Africa and I haven't been to Africa, and we both want to go to Africa, and we wanted our first time to be together, but it's like I only wanted that because you're my husband, but before that, I wanted to go by myself regardless. So being with someone, it shifts your goals and it limits them. Like I can go so many places as a single person, but as a couple or a family, your mobility is so limited because you need so much more money, you need so much more space. Like you can't just crash on someone's couch and then oh, can my husband and my child crash as well? Like no, you need to go get a hotel. You need to go get an Airbnb. You need to go figure out a place where all of you can go because nobody wants to support a family. People barely want to support a single person, but to support a family, no one's going to do that. And so I can't. I can't starve. Like again, if I'm traveling and I can't afford food, I'm just like, all right, it's cool. I'm not going to eat. That's fine. Or I'll get something very small. I can't do that if I'm out with my kid and my husband. I have to plan ahead. You have to think ahead. There's so much that goes into being a wife and a mother all at once. Because for the longest time, I was a single mom. And so it was easy to, either send my kid off to his dad or send him off to my dad or like a family. Like I can get rid of my kid pretty easily in order to then move as a sovereign entity, but then always got to come back for your kid though. But, it still wasn't, I didn't feel as limited when I was a single mom because it was like I could get rid of my kid and then I'd be a single woman. But as a wife, I cannot do that. And that's another thing is um a lot I do understand that men like beautiful women and I identify as a beautiful woman and I have used that to my advantage before. And but to get free things, get into free places, there are benefits to utilizing your looks, but I can't do that when I am a wife. I cannot flirt with other men. Not that again, this is not out of, I want to this is not, I don't want these men, but do I want what these men can give me access to? Sure, sure, sure. But as someone who respects my marriage, respects the sanctity of marriage, I would never do that with a husband. But so it's a benefit that I'm like looking forward to acquiring back is being able to be a single woman and give men the perception that they might have a chance so that I can get whatever I need or want in that moment. Yeah, it's just there are so many things. There are so many things that your friends, they don't come over nearly as much as they used to whenever you are a married person because once you become married, especially married with a kid, it's like this box, it's like this box comes over you guys' home, whereas like no one's allowed, no one's invited. It's like people can be invited, but I used to throw parties in my house probably like once every 2 months. Honestly, like probably like 6 parties a year, once every 2 months. It was St. Patrick's Day. Oh, I'm having a St. Patrick's Day party. Valentine's Day, I'm having a Valentine's Day party. April Fool's Day, having an April Fool's party. Like any random excuse at all that I had that I wanted, I was inviting my friends over to do something because I just enjoyed their company. I enjoyed being with the people that I loved and care about. But since I've been married, I've had, I think, 2 parties. It's like in the 3 years that we've been together, totally 2022. Yeah, in the 3 years that we're together, I think I've had maybe 3 parties, maybe 1 party a year. 1 party a year. And one of those parties was the engagement party that he threw. And then, 2 of them were holiday parties that were really just like family. It wasn't really my friends. It was just family, which is nothing wrong with that. But it's just like, I miss my friends. I miss my friends. I miss my friends. And I know someone's like, oh, Bri, you can do all these things while being married. And my husband has been saying that. And I've been trying to think through how can I have everything that I want, this complete and true sovereignty? Because that's what I'm looking for. If you look up the word sovereign, because that's the word that keeps coming to my mind. The word sovereign means a supreme ruler, especially a monarch, or possessing supreme or ultimate power over myself. That is what I want. I want I want to be a sovereign being who has ultimate power, authority, and self-rule, acting as the ultimate source of control in their own life, free from external domination, often involving taking ownership of one's choices, spiritual connection, and inner guidance rather than being controlled by others or circumstances. That is what it says, to be a sovereign being. And that is what I want. I want to be a sovereign being. I want to make every single choice in my life to be a choice that I made by myself, for myself, with my own thoughts, my own feelings, my own intuition. I want just ultimate control. I don't want to have to run my thoughts past anyone. I don't want to have to say, "Hey babe, I'll be home late tonight," or "Hey, yeah, I'm sleeping over Christy's house tonight." Or like, oh, or telling Christy, I can't sleep over tonight. I have to go home to my husband. Like, I don't want to do any of that. I don't want to do any of that. And it's like I said, it's like, it's not that and it's like, these are all things that I thought I wanted. That's the kicker. That's the kicker. That's the worst part, is like, I feel so bad that I have dated this wonderful human. I've loved him, he's loved me back, and we built this dream life together just for me to get everything I've ever wanted and then say, "Actually, I don't want this." I haven't told, as of the recording of this video, I haven't told anyone except my husband. We've had this discussion, but I know whenever I tell my friends who are all looking for husbands, they're gonna tell me I'm nuts for essentially throwing away a good one. When I tell my family, they're gonna think I'm crazy. When I tell his family, because I love his family's amazing, I don't know if everyone's gonna hate me. I don't think people will understand. Yeah, I don't think people are gonna understand this decision. We could have had a really good life together, but that's not the life that I want. I know exactly what the life was that I signed up for and that I would've had. It would've been, we would've stayed together, I would've kept, making dinner and watching TV. We would've eventually had a kid. The kid would sign that kid up for school. I would've been in all kinds of school stuff. The kid, we may or may not we may or may not would have had to flee the country due to the current administration's attack on Black and brown people. But, if that didn't happen, it would have been a relatively eventless life. Like, I'm writing this book and I eventually would have finished it, and that probably would have been my biggest accomplishment. But outside of that, I don't think I would have done much with my life. And writing a book is a big deal. And so, but it's like, if I ever had finished it, I have not finished it. And been working on it for the last 3 years, right? Well, huh. I was working on it at least a year before I met my husband. So has it been 4 years? Maybe. So I was working on it before him, but I do feel like since I've been in a relationship, my pace for writing that book has slowed tremendously. And this is without us having a newborn child. I knew the moment I had that child, that book it wasn't going to be finished till that child was 18. Essentially, that book would not have been finished till that child was 18. So I was trying to get this book finished before we decided to have kids. But then that also started coming in with the thoughts of, wow, once I have a kid, it's going to be so much work. And I don't think my husband, although that's the thing, although he wants a kid and he was willing to do all the work, I don't think he understands how much work a child needs, as someone who doesn't have a child himself. And I don't think he realizes how much work a mother has to do, like, just has to do, because I'm going to, if I have a kid, I'm going to breastfeed. It's almost non-negotiable. And it's just like, and then I want to be in my child's life. Because we've discussed, like, maybe we could have a kid, stay married, and then I still travel the world. But I'm like, so you want me to be a deadbeat mother? You want me to have a kid and then leave them? Like, that's narcissistic. Hey, that is narcissistic. That is, you were having a child for yourself at that point, and you're not having a child because you want a child. I don't want to have a child for someone else. I don't want to create a broken home. That is crazy. As the Black woman that I am, who had to raise this kid by myself, I would never create a broken home. Like, bring a child into the world just to immediately dump trauma on them. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Better off not having the kid at all. So, where do I go from here, you ask? Before we even go there, I did want to read this poem that I wrote that I felt like did a good job of expressing how I felt about my situation, and I hope that it will help someone understand. So, here we go. It's called A Lovely Prison. The walls are lined with gold. The baseboards are studded with diamonds. It's warm and kind and loving, like a warm cup of tea beside the fireplace. It treats you well, never lets any harm come to you. If you ask for something, the guards and administrators do their best to get it for you with a pretty high success rate. You have times you have to get up, assigned times to eat dinner. The food is pretty good, though. You would know. You're the cook, and since admin favors you, you get pretty solid ingredients. It comes with liberal visitation hours for family and friends, but they don't visit you much because, well, it's hard to find time out of the routine. But when people do come, it's lovely. There's privacy. Not a whole lot. You're typically being monitored, but enough that you don't feel encroached upon. You get top-notch smecks, like out of this world stuff. Only when you want it and never when you don't, and with someone you truly love and care for. You can even leave the grounds, but you always have to come back. You check in, you check out. You feel loved, cared for, respected. What a lovely prison. So that was I'm not a poet. I am a writer, but I'm not a poet. And I know it didn't rhyme, but that was what came out of me when I was thinking through these emotions. It's like that's how I feel. Is I have everything I want. I have everything I've ever asked for, but I still feel like I am in prison. And what it made me realize is that I don't want a partner at all. I don't want, my husband was perfect for me. He was the perfect man that I could have asked for. I mean, technically, could I ask for more? Sure, but you're never going to find the perfect human anywhere. But I realized like he could have been the most perfect person in the world, but he still wasn't nothing. He still wasn't not like my ideal is having no one. Like that is and I know, as I say that out loud, I know that sounds crazy, but to be the ultimate ruler of your own life is a type of power that I think that most people never experience. Most women, especially women, um, they have all of their, like, let's say, sovereignty when they are in college is probably the most women have their sovereignty, or maybe even right out of college whenever they're still, well, I don't know. A lot of women get married right out of college because they meet their person in college. But if they have that time out of college where they meet someone, they might have some sovereignty there. But even then, you're still so young right out of college. Like if you experience your true sovereignty, no attachments to anyone, no responsibilities to anyone, you don't owe anyone anything, and no one is like expecting anything of you, like that kind of sovereignty, if you experience that before the age of 26, I'm gonna say you've never experienced true sovereignty, because before age 26, if you are still financially dependent on your parents, or you are like, I don't know. You're like, because your brain doesn't finish developing until 26. And so if when you're making decisions before the age of 26, they're not your decisions. They are your decisions, but a lot of times they are your decisions that you're making based on what people expect you to make, based on the decisions that people expect you to make. People expect you to go to college. They expect you to get a job. They expect you to get married. They expect you to have a kid. They expect you to do X, Y, Z. All these expectations that come onto you as a young person, and you don't start really thinking your own thoughts until your brain is fully developed. And then by the time you're 26, though, that's when they start telling women, if you haven't settled down, you haven't had a kid, X, Y, Z, X, Y, Z, and so you're doing all this stuff to get the goal of getting a husband. You're doing everything you can to get a husband. And then they tell you once you get your husband, you've won. You've got the prize. You're going to be living happily ever after. And that's it. I don't think I've ever seen one movie or even read one book where the woman was completely sovereign and she was happy, and that was the happy ending. Like, I've never read a woman's sovereignty being the happy ending. And so I never expected this to be my happy ending. I never expected to want this. Y'all, this is like me, my husband, my son, we were all shocked. We were all shocked that this is what I'm deciding to do and this is what I've decided to do because he was perfect. He was so wonderful. And he actually also wrote a poem. I'm just like, we're not poets, but we are creative people. He does stand-up comedy, he does photography. He's like just wonderful human, just a good soul. He's a good soul. Yeah, so we didn't expect me to come to this conclusion after being a stay-at-home mom for a few months, but it only took a few months for me to realize this is hell on earth for me personally, and so I don't want it. I thought I wanted a kid, and I kinda, I do want a kid. I do want a kid, but I don't feel like the world is beautiful enough for the child that I want to bring into this planet. The world is ugly. The world is ugly right now. And that's another reason that I don't want a kid, at least not right now. In a different lifetime, I will have a kid and it'll probably be with my husband. But in this lifetime, on this timeline, on this earth, no thanks. Again, that is bringing a child into trauma from day one. And I'm just like, why would I do that when I can use the rest of my life that I have fighting the good fight? I can use the rest of my time battling the evil powers that be. I can get so much more done with dismantling patriarchy, dismantling capitalism, dismantling corporatism, dismantling ableism, dismantling religion if I can move on my own without fear of consequences to my family. And so I want to spend my life doing that. I want to spend my life fixing this broken world as much as I can. I would like to flee the country. I would like to move to Africa and be surrounded by Black people. I would like to avoid racism as much as I can for the rest of my life. I don't want to be where white people are, if I'm being honest. Like, I'm going to do a video on how I am a fan of segregation. And I know, some people are going to be like, what? And again, that's a different, stick around, make sure you subscribe. You'll hear if you subscribe, you will be with me on this journey. Yeah, I can do so much. When you have nothing attached to you, you can do so much. They frame it as you will be lonely, but you're only lonely if you feel like you need someone else to be happy. And what I've learned is like I need no one to be happy. I need no one. They always say tell men you're not fighting against another man, you're fighting with a woman's peace. And that is the truth. That's the truth. That is the truth, is I've learned that I have so much peace by myself. And again, my husband don't bring me chaos, but he makes me a non-sovereign person. I cannot make choices for myself without running it by someone. I am not the complete and ultimate decision maker and authority figure in my own life. Like I am, but I have a co-pilot. And I'm like, if I want to drive this plane into the ground, let me drive it into the ground. I don't want to have to ask if it's okay with my husband if I drive my own plane to the ground. And I don't want him to say, no, you can't drive your plane to the ground, and him trying to pull me back. And that's energy I have to spend trying not to drive my plane into the ground when I could have just did it. Not that I'm like, you get what I'm saying. Yeah. So that is those my plans. I'm moving back in with my parents, with my dad, to regroup. And then after that, I do hope to travel the world. I hope to travel the world as a single woman. I've been learning Spanish for years, so hopefully I can go, somewhere where they speak Spanish and use all the stuff I've learned. But I also want to live in Africa. I want to live in a country that is full of Black people, run by Black people. It's just all Black people everywhere for the most part. And like I might occasionally run into a white person, but hopefully not. But that is what I want. I want to live in a world of Black people and not have to think about if this person is judging me or not. No, not judging. Like if this person is going to bring some sort of trauma to my life by them being in my proximity. Like, I don't know. That's how I feel about white people. Like every single white person I come across, there has to be this internal dialogue of like, okay, let's examine them. Let's see what they say. Are they being weird? Are they not being weird? Do they have internalized racism? Probably. So, okay, how do I navigate that? It's just like interacting with white people is such a process. It's such a process. It's such a process. And I'm just like, I don't want to have to do that process ever again. And I want to be able to talk about them however I want to talk about them without being in the United States, because that makes me feel unsafe, because we know that any type of narcissist or narcissistic entity, when you don't kneel to the external vision that they are trying to make everyone kneel to, when you don't perceive them the way that they want to be perceived, and you don't, kiss the ring essentially to any narcissist or narcissistic entity, there is always retaliation and rage. There's also always narcissistic retaliation and rage. And yeah, so whenever I start talking about white people the way I really want to, and I would like to not be in the country where someone could swat my house or, again, do some sort of narcissistic retaliation, because that's going to come. When I start talking the way I want to talk, yeah, nah, white people are not going to like me. And that's okay, because I don't like them. I don't like them. And white people, this is another video, but it's just not all white people, but most of y'all. So, I'll get into my definition of white later. But yeah, so I guess I will be able to talk freely, and I can't wait for that as well. If you would like to support me on my new journey as I step into this new life, buy my hoodie at free2adhd.com. Or you can just, send any donations that you can to Cash App at Bri Speaks 2, the number 2. And I think I'm gonna start a GoFundMe. So for right now, if you do have donations that you want to give, I'll take them at Bri Speaks 2. But I am going to start a GoFundMe to see if everyone else wants to help, if we can come together as a community and help me reestablish my life. That would be really appreciated, because yeah, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm doing something. And I'm proud of myself for doing it personally. I know the vast majority of people in my spot would have just stayed the course, would have tucked their heads down and said, this is good enough. But my spirit was telling me this is not good enough. This is not what you want. You're not happy. And I had no choice but to listen to that. I am a person who's literally, if you look at all my platforms, my biggest thing is like, listen to your intuition, listen to your spirit. It is not going to steer you wrong. And I believe that wholeheartedly. And so I had to listen to my own intuition, and it was screaming, y'all. It was screaming in my, like, y'all don't understand, like, the word divorce. I don't like the word. It's a scary word for someone who is married, but the way that word would just blare across my brain several, more, at least once a day. I would say at least once a day for the last few weeks, really months. It would come up in my brain every once in a while, probably a few months ago. But it was it's like intrusive thoughts. It was like, it wasn't that serious. Chill out, girlfriend. But then it became more and more frequent that I was having that thought. And yeah, and it became more intense, and the unhappiness became more severe, and then anxiety started happening whenever I had to cook food. It's just like, I had no choice. I had no choice but to get out while I can. And then it was like, yeah, then the thought of having a kid on top of all of this, just, and then I was like, oh, I promised this man a kid. I could have the kid and then, wait out the 18 years, and then, then I can live my life. But it's just like, I could just stop here. I don't have to keep going. I don't have to go forward. And again, I was doing things for his pleasure. I was going to have a child, even after I didn't really want one anymore, because I promised him that I would. I had this contract through death do us part. That's what they tell you to say. Such a weird concept now that I'm thinking about it. That's a different episode right there. Is the things they make you vow, like vowing your life to another person. Now, as someone who has committed to being a sovereign person for the rest of her life, and who has felt like a spiritual connectedness with that decision, y'all, I'm gonna do a different episode on it. But the downloads I've got about marriage, it's a trap. It's a trap. It's a trap. It's a trap. And not to say I want to encourage everyone to get a divorce. But yeah, I'm gonna leave that for a different episode. Marriage is a trap, though. Just saying. All right. Well, yeah. So thanks for coming. If you listen to all of this and you listen to our story, thanks so much. I appreciate it. I'm really proud of myself for not crying, because it's a big deal, y'all. I am breaking up my family. My son does love him. I love him. Like I said, overall, the marriage was wonderful. This was the best, the last 3 years. This is the best 3 years I've had in my entire life. Hands down, no doubt about it. If I could go back and choose not to get married, I don't think I would. I would think I would do all of this all over again. I would go through this heartbreak again, just to have the experiences that I had with my husband, because they were so good. All right. Till next time. Bye-bye.